It started about a month ago. I wasn't sleeping well, but who does these days? Long work hours, stress, scrolling through my phone until my eyes burned. It was all catching up with me. So when the dreams began, I didn't think much of them. At first, they were just odd. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with fragments of strange, nonsensical image, faces I didn't recognize, voices whispering things I couldn't remember. Harmless. Right? But then, the dreams began to feel different. The first one I can vividly remember was simple but unsettling. I was in my apartment, except it wasn't quite right. The layout was backwards, and the windows showed a dark forest instead of my usual cityscape. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, and then I saw it, a shadow standing in the doorway. No features, no face, just a tall, human-like shadow, watching me. I woke up drenched in sweat. My chest hurt, like I'd been running for miles. I tried to shake it off as just a nightmare. But deep down, I knew this wasn't normal. Over the next few nights, the dreams became more vivid, more physical. In one dream, I was running through a maze, chased by something I couldn't see. My legs burned, my lungs screamed for air, but I couldn't stop. When I woke up, my calves ached as if I'd actually been running. Another night, I was drowning in dark, freezing water. I woke up gasping, my throat raw, my sheets soaked in sweat. I tried everything to stop the nightmares: meditation, cutting caffeine, even sleeping pills. Nothing worked, and then one night it got worse. In the dream, I found myself back in my childhood home. The air was heavy, suffocating. I walked into the living room and saw someone sitting on the couch, their back to me. Something told me not to go closer, but I couldn't stop myself. When I reached out to touch their shoulder, the figure turned around. It was me, my face, but pale, lifeless, with eyes so dark they looked like voids.
Don't trust what you see. It's already too late.
I jolted awake, my heart pounding. For the first time, I felt real fear. This wasn't just a series of nightmares. Something was trying to warn me, or worse, trying to reach me. I needed answers. The dreams were consuming me, and I couldn't tell what was real anymore. I turned to the only thing I could think of: old photographs. While searching through a dusty box in the attic, I found an old photo of me as a child at my grandmother's house. In the background, partially obscured, was the same shadowy figure from my dreams. That's when I realized this wasn't new. This thing had been with me for years. But why was it attacking now? The second night was worse. I found myself in the same dreamscape, a dark, desolate field under a red moon. Only this time I wasn't alone. There was someone or something standing in the distance. It didn't move at first, it just stood there, watching me. But as I turned to walk away, I heard the sound of footsteps. Not my own, but heavy, deliberate steps crunching the dead grass behind me. I didn't dare look back. My heart raced as the footsteps grew louder, faster, closing the distance between us. When I finally turned, there was no one there. But the field was different now. Something was written in the dirt. Wake up before it's too late. I jolted awake, gasping for air, only to find something chilling. My bedroom window was wide open. I could have sworn I locked it before bed. Worse, there was mud on the floor, mud that led to the foot of my bed, then stopped. I checked the locks again, bolted every door and window, and even set up my phone to record while I slept. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. The third night started the same, but this time, the dream didn't wait for me to explore. The moment I entered, I was inside a decrepit house. The walls were covered in cryptic messages, written in red. It's not a dream, and don't trust them. Then I heard laughter, high-pitched and childlike, coming from upstairs. Against my better judgment, I followed the sound. The staircase creaked under my weight, and when I reached the top, I saw a door at the end of the hallway. It was slightly ajar, light spilling through the crack. As I pushed it open, the laughter stopped. Inside was a nursery, and sitting in the center of the room was a rocking chair, slowly moving back and forth. There was no one in the chair, but on the wall above it, in jagged letters, was written, "You can't wake up anymore." The next morning, I almost convinced myself it was just another bad dream. But then, I remembered my phone recording. I played the footage, expecting to see nothing. At first, it was just me, tossing and turning. But at 3:07 a.m., the camera captured something chilling. The window opened on its own. A dark figure, tall and thin, with impossibly long limbs, slipped inside. It stood at the foot of my bed, watching me for what felt like an eternity. And then, it leaned down and whispered something into my ear. I couldn't hear the words, but my sleeping self began to cry. By now I was terrified of falling asleep, but exhaustion has a way of catching up with you. That night I dreamt again. This time I was back in the nursery, but something was wrong. I couldn't move. I was strapped to a chair, facing a mirror. In the reflection, I didn't see myself. I saw the shadow figure. It spoke to me, and this time I understood. You belong to us now. Every time you sleep, you come closer to staying here forever. I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. But when I looked around, I realized I wasn't in my bedroom. I was still in the nursery. Panicking, I pinched myself, slapped my face, anything to wake up. Nothing worked. And then I saw the locket. Yes, the same locket I hadn't seen since childhood. It was lying on the rocking chair. I picked it up, and as I opened it, I saw a photograph of myself. But I was older, haggard, and terrified. The shadow figure appeared again, standing behind me in the mirror. It whispered, "Time's up." But just as it reached for me, I heard a faint voice in the distance calling my name. It was my mother's voice, pleading for me to wake up. Desperate, I screamed her name, begging her to pull me out of this nightmare. The mirror began to crack, and the shadow figure howled in rage, its form twisting and dissolving into smoke. Suddenly, I woke up, really woke up. I was back in my bed, my phone in my hand, with an incoming call from Mom.
Sam, are you okay? I had the most terrible dream about you.
When I answered, her voice was trembling. I didn't tell her what I'd been through, but as I hung up, I noticed something on my nightstand. A locket. The same locket from the dream. Now I don't know what's real anymore. Every time I fall asleep, I'm afraid I won't wake up. The shadow figure is always there, waiting, watching. And the locket? It disappears and reappears, like it's tethered to me somehow. But here's the worst part. Sometimes, even when I'm awake, I still hear the shadow's voice. It whispers the same thing every time. You can't escape. If you ever find yourself trapped between dreams and reality, take my advice. Don't open the locket. Because once you do, it's already too late.